This might be our biggest week of news yet. Today is the election day in the United States, and whoever wins will affect all of us. The world's most famous squirrel was taken from his owner of 7 years and ended. In a world's first, researchers have achieved the teleportation of smell. That is one I highly recommend watching. And Spain were hit with one of their deadliest and most expensive natural disasters ever. Oh, and I'm about to leave Earth with an astronaut tomorrow. I'm not even kidding. All of that and so much more. Like and comment to become a sacrificial lamb, and let's get rocking! Okay, let's start with the main story of the day, because it doesn't matter if you care about politics, because today the whole world is tuning in because it's US Election Day. And you know what? It's actually a bit of a first for me, because in 2020, I wasn't even making news content. And I'll say it again, most people weren't really that interested in all of it, but now when it comes to today, there are two main questions that everyone, 99% of people, want to know. Number one, who did the number say it has a better chance of winning going into the final day of all of this? And two, when are we actually going to know the winner? Specific time, date. That's what you want to know from me. Well, to answer question number one, I would like to call on one of the most renowned and widely followed analysts out there, Nathaniel Reed Silver. And if your analyst is called Nathaniel, you're in good hands. But here is where things get a little scary, because unlike the vast majority of previous elections, this time, even the freaking tippity-toppest of all of the tippiest experts, no one can predict this one. Literally no one. Mr. Nathaniel himself said, and I quote, "It is a pure toss-up at this point." And the thing is, there is a lot of polls out there, right? And all of them are kind of saying one or the other. Some are saying Harris is edging it by a few percent. Others are saying Donald Trump is edging it by a few percent. So I guess naturally the best way of, gathering which one is the correct one, put them all together, get an average, and you want to know what that is? This is from the source 583, and they accounted for all polls, recencies, sample size, methodology, and house effects. And you want to know what you get? I mean, it's no freaking better. You've got Harris at 47.9%, while Trump is at 47%. So when it comes to polls, it's pretty much exactly the same. This is harder to call than the freaking World Cup final, Argentina-France. But here's something that's pretty interesting about the polls when it comes to Trump in particular, because we've seen Trump run 2 times before, but the polls have underestimated support for him quite drastically. Obviously, as we all remember, in 2016, this is, Alex is showing you the charts. It was the day before, and all the polls were Hillary Clinton has got this by a mile. And we all know how the 2016 election ended. But then, in 2020 as well, reports say that national polling error in 2020 was the highest in 40 years, according to a post-mortem polling by experts. So there's something about polling and Trump that just doesn't mix. So when we're talking about all these polls, I think there's a good reason to be a bit skeptical. And then, question 2. Almost forgot about that one. When will the winner of these elections actually be announced? Because last time in 2020, it was, couple weeks? Well, today in America, throughout the day, into the evening, and into the night, states will start closing off their voting and start counting. And traditionally, at least pretty commonly in the past, it was soon after the closing of voting at 11 p.m. Eastern Time in California that the race as a whole was called for one candidate or another. So we kind of knew that day. But this time, most experts and most analysts, probably even Nathaniel at this point, they believe we're not going to know. Maybe even on the 5th, maybe even on the 6th. In fact, it could take days. And they say that in part this is due to the recent elections. There's been this increase in postal votes. And that's tended, to take quite a long time to count it and delays the whole process. But also because different states have different rules on when they start counting themselves. But hey, who knows, right? We might find out today, because experts have been wrong about a lot of stuff in the past. But just to give you a sense of I kind of wish I was in America for this, just to feel the tension. Because just yesterday, Washington officially activated the National Guard after receiving new information and concerns regarding political violence ahead of the election. Now, the governor of Washington state hasn't disclosed how many troops are being activated precisely, but they said that they will be on standby from the 4th, so they're already all good to go, all the way until the 7th. And he said this is based on general and specific information, and so they want to ensure that they are fully prepared to respond. Man, that sounds crazy. And like I said in a previous video, both sides already, before the winner is even declared, are already preparing for aggressive legal action. So this one is going to be rough. I mean, there's a lot of things that we don't know about this election, but one thing is for sure, the next few days are going to be wild. So make sure you're subscribed, you're followed, you're locked in, so you keep updated. All right, moving on. Okay, now this next story probably got to be one of the most horrendous ones I've done in a while. So, warning, got any tissues nearby? Bring them in, because you're gonna need it. As many of us already know, because this squirrel was one of the most famous in the world 7 years ago, this man, Mark, took in this baby squirrel named Peanut after its mother, or his mother, was hit by a car. Now, he cared for little Peanut until he was old enough and safe enough to let him go. Instead of Peanut running away up into the tree, living his life in the wild, the next morning, Peanut turned up at his front porch again with a chunk missing from his tail. So Mark said, you know what? Let's take him back in and let's start documenting our journey together. So he started posting on social media, and it's safe to say they went hugely viral. And that's a key point in all of this, because he's been on talk shows, he's been around the world, he's had millions, potentially billions of views. So the question is, 7 years later, why the hell did this happen? Just last week, the DEC released a statement saying that an investigation had been launched after receiving multiple anonymous reports from the public about potentially unsafe housing of wildlife that could carry rabies and the illegal keeping of wildlife as pets. Then things get crazier, because Mark said that on Wednesday this week, 10 to 12 DEC agents turned up at his door. They raided his house. They went through every cupboard, every nook, every cranny, while they sat him outside for 5 hours. He said he even had to have a police escort just to go to his own bathroom. For a squirrel. The end of all of this, they not only took Peanut, right? They took his beloved squirrel, but they also took Fred. Fred is the raccoon. How do you look at this and not think this is one of the most adorable things ever? Anyway, they took Fred the raccoon as well. But then things get even worse. They found out that days later, Peanut bit one of the staff. But because to test for rabies, it requires the animal be euthanized, both Fred and Peanut were killed. Just like that. And as of right now, we still don't know what the results for those tests were. As you'd imagine, when this became news, it sparked fury and anger online like I haven't seen in a while. And Mark and his wife say that they're in the process of taking legal action against the county. Man, I told you needed them tissues. Moving on. Okay, this next one will blow your mind, I promise you. Because in a world's first, researchers at Osmo Labs have achieved the teleportation of smell. Do you realize the magnitude of that? Let me put it this way, if this isn't blowing your mind yet. Up until 2024, human beings have discovered how to teleport, right? Only two of our human senses. Sound, through the telephone, speakers, the microphone, and images with the screens that we watch all day. And we've done that because we've discovered a way to capture those senses in a digital form and then turn them into data that we could then send instantly. But now they have managed to do that with smell. You get it now? Hypothetically, once they're able to replicate this process outside of the lab and outside of lab machines, not only could you one day send a smell like you send someone a voice note or an image. Oh, I don't even know. I don't even want to think about the businesses that will come out of that. I was going to say, Alex, I'll leave that one to you to let them know, but then Alex is probably worse than the comments at this point, so I'll let the comments handle that one. So yeah, not only could you send someone a smell, like an image or a recording, but also, and here I think is even the crazier part, they say that by digitizing scent, they have effectively given computers a new sense. I don't even know what to make of that one. I'd love to know what Apple would name that feature when your computer could tell you what you smell like. I mean, you're about to wake up in 2030 and your iPhone is gonna hit you with a little alert being like, okay, you need to freaking take a shower. You smell like shit. You smell like corn casserole.
Corn casserole.
Now, the first smell that they ever digitized was fresh plum. Fair. They captured all of the sense's molecules in a digital format and then reprinted the exact same smell on the other side of the lab, which is the teleportation part. And yes, they themselves call it teleportation of smell. And it came out on the other side just like a clear liquid. And when I heard that, that begs the question, what's gonna happen to all of these hyper expensive colognes that cost hundreds, if not thousands, when they can effectively be reprinted and smell exactly the same? I mean, the CEO, even on Twitter, replied to one of the comments, Tom Ford Tobacco Vanille goes for about 3,600 a liter. He said, send me a bottle and I'll send you a liter. That is what's gonna happen. And the CEO, Alex, another Alex, I swear, if you watch the last video or whatever video it was, every person that seems to be achieving things right now is named Alex. This is crazy. Anyway, the CEO of Osmo Lab said, holy moly, I'm still processing the magnitude of what we've done. I told you to hang around for that story because that's insane. So I guess the question for you guys is, and I somewhat dread the answers, if sending someone a smell instantly becomes a thing, what are you sending first? Let's swiftly move on. Okay, the next one is a fantastic feel-good story because it's one that we've covered a few times before on the channel, his journey, but the Barefoot man has actually done it. The man walking across the entire length of America without any shoes, no socks, has officially crossed the finish line. And you want to know what the first thing he did was? Put on a pair of shoes. It has taken him a staggering 8.5 months to walk all the way from LA to New York, and he walked through snow, desert, rocks, broken glass, and even metal pins. But despite all of the pain, all of the suffering, his reason for doing this, raising awareness for men's mental health, pushed him through all of it. He has now set the Guinness World Record for the longest distance ever walked barefoot. And if I hear one person saying, oh, our ancestors probably did that, do not freaking ruin the moment. So, sir, on behalf of everyone here watching around the world and all of the people that you helped doing this, we salute you. God damn, we love that one. All right, moving on. The next one, for everyone that's tired of seeing Mr. Beast drama and all of the titles and thumbnails of every YouTube video nowadays, well, I potentially have some good news for you. Because this week, we may have seen all of the drama dry up and be put to bed. Maybe. Because that long-awaited independent third-party investigation into Mr. Beast has been released. The law firm that Jimmy hired said that they conducted 39 interviews with current and former employees and reviewed over 4.5 million documents collected from mobile phones, emails, and a bunch of social media platforms. And you want to know what their two main conclusions were? Number one, and I'm quoting, allegations of sexual misconduct between company employees and minors are without basis. The allegations were soundly rejected, including by alleged victims. And number two, allegations the company had knowingly employed individuals with proclivities or histories towards illegal conduct are similarly without basis. You're probably hearing this, and like most people hearing the news, there's one camp that says, right, surely it's been put to bed now, right? But then there's the other camp that says, nah, hold on a second, wait a minute. Conflict of interest. In fact, this whole post that he did on Twitter was hit with, those community notes. And they said, some of the top comments were, we investigated ourselves and we found ourselves innocent. And that's why I said this maybe was put to bed. But I guess that begs the question, do you think that this investigation was good enough to disprove all of these allegations made against him in the past few months? Or is there a major conflict of interest? And if there is, what process, for you at least, would be good enough to disprove these allegations? Let me know in the comments let's move on. Let's talk about what happened in Spain this week. And this is not hyperbole when I say it. Some truly apocalyptic scenes are coming out of the country right now. As most of you would have heard by now, parts of the country were hit with major flash flooding because some areas had more than a year's worth of rain in less than 8 hours. I have seen some genuinely shocking videos of streets that cars are lined up on and just being washed away, like someone freaking cracked a dam and it just came through. And it was only the morning after that we saw the full extent of the destruction that this caused. This drone footage was released by Spain's national police and it shows entire streets of Valencia buried in mud, debris, and smashed, scattered vehicles just everywhere you look, like a zombie apocalypse. And because of the destruction that this caused, the death toll, the official death toll, is now at 214. And that number is rising every day. And that's made it Spain's deadliest flash flooding in their modern history. Other footage from the ground shows highways just lined with flipped cars and entire streets where there's so much debris, you literally can't even see the floor. 7,500 soldiers have been deployed to help with rescue efforts. Some places can only be reached by helicopter. The entire rail service linking Madrid to Valencia has been suspended for up to 3 weeks. EU flags are being flown at half-mast in solidarity with Spain. And the extent of the damage is so astounding that they're saying this could be, and in fact, they believe it is, the most expensive natural disaster ever for Spain. And then, just today, when Spain's king and queen went to the streets of Valencia and walked through, they were confronted by angry protesters throwing mud and other objects at them, shouting shame and calling them murderers. Which, for context as to why, a lot of people in wake of this flooding believe that there wasn't a good enough warning for people before all of this hit. And some are even saying that there's not been enough support from authorities after the floods. Some real crazy times in Spain right now. And all of our thoughts and prayers are with you. With that being said, I think it is time for some rapid fire news. Okay, I don't know how this is even real, and it might not be news for you, but it is for me, so I'm talking about it. 24 years ago, right? The Simpsons dropped this episode where Lisa was the first female president of the United States. Sound familiar already? And she's wearing not only a purple suit, but also pearls. Look at this. It's like, how far do coincidences go at this point, right? To get all of these things right, but it goes even further because they also dropped this line.
As you know, we've inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump. How bad is it, Secretary Van Houten? 24
years ago. Now, to be fair, dial down the coincidence a little bit because in the year 2000, when this episode was released, Trump actually, not many people knew, including myself, he actually ran for president in the year 2000. So that's probably where they got the reference from. But regardless, I swear, if Kamala does become president, she wears that suit, she says those exact lines in that desk, I think the world might just implode.
All right, here comes the implosion.
Implosion? But I thought you said...
Next! After 2 years in jail, this week, Young Thug was actually released in what became the longest criminal trial in Georgia's history. I don't know, this came as a surprise to most of us because as soon as they dropped that truly humble under God claim, we thought bro was cooked for sure. But no, and this is the craziest part, his lawyer, Brian Steele, pulled off one of the most, I would say, goated trust me moments of any lawyer ever. You see, prosecutors offered Young Thug a plea deal. They said, if you don't accept this plea deal, we are going to recommend to the judge 45 years in prison. But his lawyer had the cojones to say, nah, don't take it. Rather, I want you to plead guilty to gang, drug, and gun charges and no contest to RICO charges, which is no contest is basically saying like, I'm not admitting it, I'm not denying it. No contest. And he said, do all of that and let the judge decide your fate. What a gamble. 45 years on the line. But that turned out to be the best decision of Young Thug's life ever. Because the judge gave him 2 years time served, which is the 2 years he was already in there, and 15 years of probation, which I know sounds like a lot, but he was released that night, according to jail records, and he gets to go home instead of 45 years in prison. So, next. And then the finale. You will never believe who contacted me this week. This might be actually crazier than NATO. the European Space Agency. And they want me to go with one of their astronauts while they do zero gravity training. Can life get any crazier at this point? So in the next couple of days, I will be getting on a flight, leaving Earth now. I mean, to be honest, it's probably similar heights to a regular plane flies. But what it does do, unlike a regular plane, is it's essentially a roller coaster in the sky. The plane flies in this big arc, up, over, and then down. And at the top of that arc, it creates this free fall moment. During that free fall, me, the astronaut, and everything else and everyone inside will be falling at the same rate as the plane, which creates that zero gravity for astronaut training. I mean, my lord, I'm telling you right now, News Daddy is about to be the first to bring you a news report with zero gravity. Daily Mail, do that. Woo! And with that out the way, I forgot our sacrificial lambs. I haven't generated our sacrificial lamb. Oh, Lord. You know what? Okay, since I haven't generated them, today I will be your sacrificial lamb to remind you to like the video. Alex, I don't know if you can do this. I'm on the wall. Whip me. Ah! Ah! That was all to remind you to like the video and subscribe. The things that I become for you. Man, I honestly don't know if Alex is able to do that. Otherwise, that's gonna look weird. No diddy. All right. Oh, I told you today was a big one. I love you guys. Thank you for all of your support. And I will see you middle of the week. I've got so much news to tell you. God, hey, whoa! And let's get, where the frick is my whip?